in the comedy world, being able to like, I'm a past comedian at the Laugh Factory. So that means that like they decided I was funny enough to get booked all the time. I, again, have the regular spot. They send me the emails being like, when are you available next for the shows? So to me, like I'm the only person with a, Kippah and tzitzit, to the best of my knowledge, that has ever accomplished that at an upper echelon A-list club.
Shalom, friends! Welcome to Orange Socks, a podcast celebrating Jewish creativity. I'm your host, Yitzchak Muli, inviting you to join me in exploring the soul of Jewish expression. Shalom, friends, and welcome to the Orange Socks podcast. I am here with Menachem Silverstein. Menachem, pleasure to have you from the other
Thank
side
you
of a
for
camera.
having me. Exactly.
So, I've watched your creativity for quite a while now. I don't even remember how far back it goes, but you've switched gears a few times, I think. You'll tell us about that. But you're still out there and you're still creating and you're getting bigger and bigger, getting bigger stages. And tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll go into what you used to do and how you got here.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. It's nice to, have the full circle from meeting you way back when to being on your podcast. Um,
Do you
right
remember
now,
when was way back when? Do you remember where that was
when
or when that was?
so I knew about you as an artist for years. I had seen your art. I've been around your art. Envy your art in a good way because I can do a lot of things when it comes to painting and drawing. I cannot do that. And my dad's an artist. He went to art school. A lot of my siblings are really great artists. And for me, like I can draw dysfunctional stick figures at best. Like, if I try to draw stick figures, my family's like, "Oh, that's so deformed stick figures. That's
Oh,
like you're so caring." Um, and what was I gonna say? I know that when I was working in Morristown camp, you had your kids there, and I remember
yes,
at that point I invited you to one of my first concerts back when I was in a band. Um,
yes. Were you
so
in
that
Yeshiva
was
in Australia by any chance?
no.
No. Okay, so that's all right. So that's not where I know you from. So it was back from Morristown days.
Back from Marston days, but then I think it was even before then. There was like I think like on Hanukkah Mivtzayim once, like we came to your Chabad house, like me and some friends.
Okay,
A
okay.
couple small interactions, but when we actually like started getting to know each other and talking to each other was in Morristown Day Camp. Um, and since then, now I am a stand-up comedian. I am a script writer, and I run a production company. So I'll do
Oh,
writing, directing, producing, and stand-up comedy. So stay busy.
oh. So you wear a lot of hats, more than I
Wear a
realized.
lot of hats. Yeah,
Um,
it's one of those things like at least for me as a creative, I kind of definitely, go with the flow of what's available, what I can do. I want to be a creative
yeah.
full time. I also want to have, from family, kosher food, private school, house, all these other things. Everything's expensive. So to me,
In Southern
um,
California, no less.
in Southern in Southern California, so to get by, I'm I'm lucky enough that I'm a full time creative, but there's definitely, like all the avenues of creativity where some months, I feel like a stand-up comedian, and other months I feel like a director, and other months I feel like a screenwriter, just depending on what's going on at the time, and try to juggle everything as best I can.
Right. No, but it's awesome that they're all creative pursuits, each one on their own.
Yeah.
They're different hats, as we said, but it's not that you're, driving a school bus, in between, stand-up gigs. And I'm
Unless
sure
it's available, if the
I'm
job's available, I might want to drive the bus. How much are we talking? How much does it pay?
there we've spoken like a true creative, huh? Um, how do the different roles inform each other?
I think they all kind of blend into each other really well. Where my initial goal was to move out here as a screenwriter. And then what happened was I was pitching a show about the making of a comedy special. They wanted me to play a
Mm,
comedian in the show, and I always wanted to be a comic, but I was always worried that like being a comedian with a yarmulke and scissors would be a little bit too aggressive with the crowd, so I never really did it. that kind of gave me the permission to really go into comedy. The show ultimately fell apart, but I became a comedian through that. I was trying to sell TV shows, ended up getting hired to write a commercial. And once I was on set as the writer for the commercial, I was like, I saw how the director and producer were working, and I was like, you know what? I can do that. So in order to get myself more writing jobs, I agreed to produce because a lot of people don't like producing because it's really hard work. So I was like, hey,
Right.
if I am the producer, I can hire myself as the writer. And then once I was there, I was also like, hey, if I am the writer, I would like to control how the video comes out. Let me be the director. So each one kind of bled into the other, and it just, led to more opportunities. The more you're willing to do, the more work you can get. And then ultimately, I launched my own production company because I was like, why sit back and wait for people to hire me? Let me get the
Right.
jobs. Let me
Right.
hire
Why
people.
right. Why direct for someone else when you could do it for yourself?
Exactly. And then for me, then through writing and doing stand up, I got hired to, like be in writers' rooms and write for TV shows, which has always been an awesome dream of mine. Been able to do stand up comedy, make people laugh. And it's again, like the more comedy I do, the more writing jobs I get. And the more writing jobs I get, the more directing opportunities, the more producing opportunities. And when it comes to creativity, one of the pieces of advice I give to people is, kind of go in with an open mind. You might want to, like,
Yeah.
I came in being like, I'm going to be a screenwriter, and comedy has gotten me the screenwriting jobs. So sometimes, you know,
Right.
the
Right.
workaround is what ultimately works.
That's fascinating. That's awesome. It's awesome that you're willing to lean into it. There's the idea of the purists. That they're focused. I'm going to be a screenwriter, and this is what I really want to do. This is my mission in life. That I don't know if it's banging your head against the wall, but just looking for gigs as a screenwriter limits you in screenwriting opportunities. Um, that embracing comedy, embracing directorship, if that's what it is, um, creates more opportunities as a screenwriter is an interesting.
I'm saying that it definitely works for some purists. Like I have a friend, he's an awesome actor. His name is Jeff Wilbush, and he's an actor. He was in Unorthodox and Oslo and all of these amazing projects. And like he's an actor. And he Baruch Hashem makes a great living as an actor. He's an actor. For me, it never seemed that easy. And I think that also, again, having the Frum family makes you, I guess, see things differently or, navigate your life differently. But for me, it's always been like, hey, I'm happy to take the adjacent job to what I want to do because it feels like the paths ultimately lead to one another.
Well, it gets you in the right rooms. It gets you rubbing
Yeah.
shoulders with the right people, and then once they know who you are and they know, oh, you could do this, oh, you could do that also, oh, so that's a wonderful thing. How big is the Jewish scene in Hollywood? Do you find yourself that are you defined? Are you in Hollywood?
I what's funny is when it comes to like creative things, especially like Hollywood, I feel like not that many people really feel like they're in Hollywood because it's like, you'll be in a writer's room and then you won't work for 2 years. And then you'll be in another writer's room. And but so like when you're in your writer's room, you feel like, oh my gosh, I made it, I'm there, Hollywood, everything, blah. And then when you don't get the call for 2 years, you're like, okay, they clearly don't care about me. I never was there to begin with. You have all this imposter syndrome. Then you get the second job and you're like, oh wait, I was there the whole time. So for me, I'm really lucky where stand up is the consistent thing. And, like even again, going back to my, actor friends, one thing about them is they only have acting jobs when there's an acting job that hires them. For me, I can do stand up every night. So I get to have that like rush and fulfillment of creativity whenever I'd like versus having to like wait for other people to hire me. So I think, like being able to perform at the Laugh Factory at least once a week. So I have a standing show there every Thursday
Wow,
night. And then,
wow.
I'll do other shows throughout, but being able to be there every Thursday night, co-producing a show with hilarious comedian, a friend of mine, Taran Van Gosri. So being able to do that with him, it like definitely makes me feel like I'm in Hollywood. Like I get to perform at one of the biggest clubs in the world every
Right.
week.
Wow, wow. So I mean, myself and the art world, I realized a long time ago that you know the art world doesn't care for me, and frankly, I don't care for the art world. I'm not going to get there. I'm not going to be, in the top galleries. But there's enough of a Jewish art world, and there's enough of opportunities that I'm creating myself and directions that I'm going myself, that I don't need the art world. And if one day, Momo wakes up and they decide they want a piece, begrudgingly, I'll share my overflowing cup and my public art menorahs with them, of course. But so I suppose there's like, there's Broadway, there's off Broadway, there's off Broadway. So there must be, there's Hollywood, and then there's Hollywood adjacent, um, in the different
Yeah,
scenes. I'm sure.
it's kind of, so again, if we can go through like one thing at a time. So the what's interesting about being creative, especially let's say again Hollywood, everything has its own set of rules. So in stand-up comedy, if you perform for 8 minutes on a Thursday night at 11 p.m. in front of 100 people, you're successful as long as you're in the right club. So that is
Yeah,
success. You
yeah,
cannot afford to survive. You can't pay for a family. You can't afford rent or dinner, but you've made it as a comedian.
right.
Then there's the upper 5% of comics that are on Netflix with their specials and with their this and with their that and like all the fancy stuff. So, like, in the comedy world, being able to, like, I'm a past comedian at the Laugh Factory. So that means that, like, they decided I was funny enough to get booked all the time. I, again, have the regular spot. They send me the emails being like, when are you available next for the shows? So to me, like, I'm the only person with a, Kippah and tzitzit, to the best of my knowledge, that has ever accomplished that at an upper echelon A-list club. So to me,
So
like, in the
let's
comedy world, I made
let's
it.
talk about that.
But
That's making it. I mean, absolutely, that's
thank you.
making it, and that's making it with Yarmulke and Tzitzis, which is even more. You said earlier that you didn't think that they were ready for it. Not that you had a problem with being up there with Yarmulke and Tzitzis, but it's that the world wasn't ready, or the comedy clubs weren't ready.
Yeah, so what's funny is, like, to me, there was never a question, like, if I was going to do stand up, it was going to be with a Yama consensus. Like, that was going to
Right.
happen, and that's the only way I would do it. Funny enough, I actually started performing, and I had some people that were like, Fad, how dare you bring a Yama consensus to a club like that? And my response was like, I'm going to do it regardless. Would you rather me take my Yama consensus off? Is that, like, the response that you want? So to me, it was like, I always wanted to do that. But again, I just thought that the audience wouldn't be able to handle it. I'm like, the audience, the bookers, the clubs, like, would they want somebody that aggressively religious on their
Aggressively
stage?
religious. It's a funny
And
thought. I suppose you're right. Yarmulke and Tzitzis would be defined as aggressively religious.
yeah, like, I know, I'm saying, to me, like, we'll jump, shift gears for a second to the writing. When I go to pitch a TV show, when it's to a Jewish executive, I always hesitate, and I'm always like, oh, I don't think this is going to go well, because there's this weird, like, you're like too Jewish for us. You're too
Sure,
much for us. We don't want
sure.
this brand right now. Versus, like, I had one meeting. It was the funniest thing. It was, COVID e time. So we had a meeting via Zoom. It was me and Tehran, who I write scripts with sometimes, and we do stand up and produce shows and all the stuff. We had a pitch with this huge showrunner. She has this really successful TV show on Netflix, and she jumps in the Zoom, and there's a massive crucifix behind her, like the biggest crucifix I've ever seen. And right away, I messaged Tehran. I was like, "We got this," and she loved our script so much she introduced us to the head of Sony TV.
Wow.
Because to her it was like, "Oh my gosh, there's a Jew with a kippah and tzitzit. This is so cool. This is so different. This is so unique. We love this." Versus, again, there are a lot of people who see it as like, that's not what we're looking for. And some people think it's a gimmick. Like, I've had people a lot of times ask me, and they're like, do you actually? Are you actually a rabbi? Do you actually, like, run the synagogue on the weekend? Like, is this real, or is it just for the show? Like, are you wearing the kippah? Do you
Right.
actually wear it outside, or is it just like? Because I forgot his name. There was this comedian who was pretty funny. He would put on the full, chassid gear, and that was his shtick. But then he'd go
Right.
and have his, bacon. He wasn't from it all. He just.
Right.
So it's definitely an interesting, navigation to try to do. But I'm happy that it's authentically me. I think when it comes to art, creativity, and especially stand up, it's like the difference between stand up and acting. when you're acting, you're trying to pretend to be someone else and you're reading lines that were given to you. When it comes to stand up,
Right.
even if you have prepared lines, they want to see the authentic you. They want you to bring yourself. They want the difference between good comedians and bad comedians. Like sometimes you'll see like just noticing what's going on around you will enhance your performance. For example, I was doing a show once, and it was a Jewish show, a very Jewish show, for the FIDF, the Friends of the IDF. Bad name, bad branding, FIDF, but it does stand for Friends. I
Yep.
confirmed. And it was during the holiday times, so we're at the Improv, and there's a massive Christmas tree, biggest Christmas tree that could fit on a stage. And they took the FIDF banner and they put it in front of the Christmas tree. But
Right.
you cannot hide the Christmas tree. And comedian after comedian get up and they do their shtick. And I get up and the first thing I say is like, I'm like, I love how, like, this is a Jewish event because they're like, okay, we're going to cover the Christmas tree because it's not a Christmas show, but we're too lazy to take the tree off the stage. We're not going to do that much work. And I just acknowledged what was going on in the room and then started my show. And my set killed. Part of it was because the audience was like, oh, wow, we see you. You're giving us a live performance because this isn't part of your set. And it does better. So I realized that like me keeping my keep MCC, didn't take away. If anything, it enhances it. And yes, some people might not like it. It might not be for everyone. I might not be the most bookable or booked comic out there, but when you book me, you're getting the authentic me. You're getting something different, something unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there are things that, the way it is that Hispanic comics can say things that nobody else can, and black comics can say things that nobody else can, and Jewish comics, a guy with a yarmulke and tzitzis can say things that hopefully nobody else can. Maybe others can.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyone can make it,
Others
poke fun at the
shouldn't.
Jews these days. Others
Yeah.
shouldn't. Right. Yeah. But authenticity, it really is about authenticity. It really is about bringing yourself to the table. And, I suppose comics, you know a lot better than I do, but comedy used to be a lot more about acting. It was about putting on a bit, just doing a bit. And it seems that now a lot of comedy is I did, this happened to me, my wife, whatever, my family, my kids, whatever it is, my own context. So that your context as a religious Jew definitely brings a lot to the table, and the nuance that I suppose other people don't really see and feel and know that nuance. You can put on the hat, you can put on the curly payas, but to get to the soul of, you know, the nuance of an Orthodox Jew takes an Orthodox Jew.
Yeah. I'm saying you need to be circumcised to share the circumcision trauma. That's what it is. But no, but it's funny that you bring up that point. I think that like you can tell also that people like an element of authenticity because what's going viral right now in the comedy world are crowd work clips
Right.
because they're unprepared, they're unfiltered. It's like, oh wow, this is real raw. This is how the audience reacted. This is how the person reacted to the audience, and people like seeing that like real life moment versus waiting and trying to see these like manufactured moments. And again, good comedians can take manufactured moments and make them seem real and authentic in the moment. And part of that is being open to that change. Kind of going back before, to talking about the pivoting. It's like you have your moment in your joke, and someone will say something in the audience, and if you don't acknowledge what they said, then your joke will fall flat. But at the same time, if you acknowledge too much, the punchline will miss because something that people don't realize about comedy follows beats, just like music.
Right. Right.
So if you're off tempo, people won't like your music. If you're off tempo, you won't get the laughs. There is a beat to it. Da da
Wow.
da,
Wow.
punchline. Da da da, punchline.
Right.
And you have to be able to play the time, or it falls flat.
Do you have any training in this? I mean, like that you played one on TV and all of a sudden you got the confidence to get up there and just do it and do it well. Have you done any
Well,
improv training? Have you done any training? Do you even know what you're
so
doing?
do any of us know what we're doing? So first off, what was funny was I never ended up playing the comedian on TV. We shot what's called test footage So they shoot like fake scenes just to kind of like, make sure they like the way you act, they like the way you interact with other actors. So we got to do that, which was really special. The show never ended up coming about. When it comes to comedy, I have a little tiny bit of improv from Rabbi D in Morristown, which is funny. So when we were counselors there, for activities, he would do some improv with the counselors. So we did a couple lessons there. So that's my kind of like improv-y background. For me, I always loved, kind of like acting, writing, being silly, being funny. But again, from a professional standpoint, it was like, I threw myself to the wolves a little bit. I had a background of like giving Tartaras because, there were certain like Rabbi Solomon was out of town a few weeks and I went and, like covered for the speech. And there was, like other rabbis once in a while, if they ever needed, I would like jump in, come go there with my friends for the weekend and like give the speech. So I had like some public speaking experience. But I always liked being silly and funny. I had the writing background, so essentially like I just wrote my own jokes. But there was a learning curve at the beginning. Even though I had some stage presence, it wasn't a great stage presence. I, like was too much of a writer at first, where, I would have the written jokes and there wasn't a live element. There wasn't the authentic. It was just like, so I was going to the store and da 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 da, and everyone's like, yay. Versus, telling authentic stories, saying, talking about real experiences, talking about how I, see the world and how I envision the world.
What I'm told is that, or at least what I've heard is that, stand-up comic is, one of the hardest jobs to do, because 8 minutes stand-up is a very long time, especially when the first few may fall flat. You don't have a name. You got to prove yourself. You start off with no laughs, and then you have to build up, which seems super daunting for a lot of people. It's
Well, something
amazing.
that's funny. It's what's so funny is you brought up a good point where the more famous you are, the less funny you have to be. The more unknown
Right.
you are, the harder you have to work. Like Kevin Hart
Yeah.
gets up. He doesn't have to be that funny. Everyone is so thrilled. He just made everyone's night. Even if he doesn't
Right.
say a single funny thing, everyone's going to talk about that
Right.
moment for a month, maybe for the rest of their life. When I
Right.
go on stage, nobody knows who I am. Well, 7 people know who I am. But, the
Your
large percentage
family.
of people don't know who I am. I have to go and prove myself to the audience. And they're looking at me for comedy only. If I'm funny, I'm funny. If I'm not, I'm not. So when you're younger, you have to work harder. And what's even funnier also is how people break into comedy is through open mics. When you're at an open mic, everyone is there to watch you fail. Everyone wants you to fail because it's just other comedians. And if you're funnier than
Yep.
them,
Yep.
they're upset. So they don't want to laugh at you. So you have to go there and you're like working so hard to get laughs. Meanwhile, you go to a club where people paid for tickets and paid for 2 drinks. All they want to do is laugh. If not, they wasted money.
Ah.
So the further you get in your career, the easier it gets. It's really hard. Then you move on to people paying to see you. People paying to be at the club. Then people actually come to see you. Then the more famous you get, bigger. Like for me, it's way easier for me to kill it when it's a show that people came to see me. When it's one of my shows, like I produced the show Laugh to the Heartbreak with Era Safar. When people come to a Laugh to the Heartbreak, they're there to see me. I get a standing ovation. I get applause breaks. I don't have to do that much work. When I'm performing in front of 200 non-Jews who don't know me, I have to work for it. I still can get those applause breaks. I still can get those, like the laughs, but it's a completely different thing, which is kind of, funnier. And then just going back to the timing, which is an interesting kind of concept as well. When you're new, 5 minutes is the longest thing in the world. It's so much time. As you become a better comic, it's easier to do long sets than short sets. It's way easier for me to do 20 minutes than 8. Because when I'm there for 20 minutes, I can like tell a story. I can give an overarching thing. We're there together. We're hanging out. If I'm doing 5 minutes, like it's such a hard thing to do because if I have, let's say, 15, 20 minutes, I have a good 5 minutes to just talk to the crowd, let them know who I am before I even get into my jokes. If I have 5 minutes, I have like 2 jokes to let the audience know who I am, 1 to 2 jokes in the middle, and then I need to close somehow.
Right.
Because that's also an important thing, is like sometimes in comedy a comedian will jump into their material, but it's like the audience doesn't know you. You have to, again, make a joke about, spatial awareness. Are you the fifth Jewish comedian on the lineup? Are you the first Jewish comedian on the lineup? Like, you're the only one there with a kippah. Joke about it. Make the audience feel comfortable. Once they do, okay, I have 35 jokes about the fact that my name is Menachem Silverstein. By me establishing those jokes, it's then they're like, okay, wow, we get who you are. Now let's go and talk about my perspective on life.
Do you prefer general audience, like non-Jewish crowds? Do you prefer Jewish crowds?
Jewish crowds, if I'm being honest, are scarier because there's a lot more judgment, there's a lot more expectation. When it's a non-Jewish audience, again, they come in blank slate. They come in expecting nothing from me. They won't like. So if I make them laugh, oh my gosh, amazing! Who is that guy? They're not going to yenta after to their friends, or if they do yenta, it's for good. Oh wow, I saw this amazing, hilarious Orthodox comic. You should go see him. When it comes to Jews, it's like they know me. They know someone who knows me. Somebody in the audience might hire me for a private gig. There's just like the stakes are a lot higher. And depending on the Jewish audience, like, again, the audience that we've curated for our shows, Baruch Hashem, happen to be amazing, and they're super open-minded and fun and funny. But, like, a lot of times when I do, like, show gigs and stuff, it's hard. A lot of Jews think that laughter is currency, and you have to really earn it. They're not going to give that up for free. You got to earn, why should I laugh? Or, again, you have a lot of people also, like, that are like, I can do it better. I'm funnier. Okay, come try. But to me also, like, it's kind of a weird, my origin story was I got into comedy to be on this show. So I started performing in front of regular audiences because I wasn't going to be a Jewish comic for Jews. I was the Orthodox Jewish comic for the broader audience. Then at the Laugh Factory, Tehran took me under his wing and really helped make me a comedian. And that was, again, being thrown to the wolves of a non-Jewish audience. So I'm more used to performing in front of non-Jews than Jews. So, to me, it's like what's funny is I would say I'm way more established in the non-Jewish world than the Jewish world.
Right. No, that's good.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not good or bad. It's just it's definitely like its own thing. It's like a different
Well, the
world.
non-Jewish world is bigger. You definitely got a bigger audience, and you get a chance to make an impact. Which, kind of the question what I'm thinking is, what are you saying in your comedy? Do you have a message? Do you have a general direction? Is it just about getting laughs? I mean, you're definitely wearing your Judaism on your sleeve. You got your yarmulke, you got your tzitzis. That everyone can see. Do you lean into? I suppose you do. Making jokes about your name. You do lean into your Judaism. But like the way I look at all creativity, I've mentioned this multiple times on this podcast. But as a self-taught creative, I look back and say that all creativity comes down to three basic elements, and that is what you say, there's how you say it, and how you share it with the world. So as a stand-up comic, how you say it is comedy. If we're taking of your three, your different hats, and then the question and how you share it with the world is also stand-up comic. You're on a mic, on a stage, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. So the question is, what do you say? What is your subject matter about? Or what Jewish messages do you feel that you could say, that you should say? Do you feel like you're a spokesperson for Judaism? Whole lot of questions right in there.
First off, yes, I'm single-handedly the only spokesperson for Judaism. I think that if anybody has any questions for Judaism, they should solely come to me, and my response is all they should, take seriously. That's hands down. For me, there was a little bit of, in writing and in stand-up, I had a little bit of trouble kind of finding my voice because that was something that was scary for me. It's like I didn't want to be the Jewish writer or the Jewish comedian. I wanted to be more than that. So at the beginning, let's say when it came to stand-up, I wouldn't really joke about being Jewish because I was like, okay, the joke's there. I'm wearing the kippah and tzitzit. I'm just going to joke about other things. Being a dad and my perspective on life and all that kind of stuff. But again, that didn't come off as authentic. And then slowly I started leaning into more like the Judaism and how that affects me. And the response and reaction was way better. And what I kind of try to do in my comedy are a few things. First thing is I try to kind of like humanize my experience as a religious Jew and what that means to me, what it means to be Jewish, what it means to believe in God, what it means to be a religious person of any faith. Because to me, like I joke about, I'm like, you know, I hope it's real. Like I'm hedging my bets, just like anyone else. Like your hat protects you from the sun, my hat protects me from the sun and the wrath of God. I hope. I hope. You know what I mean? Like for me, I'm Orthodox. No matter how crazy the world gets out there, it's like I'm all in. You know, that kind of, element of, I struggle with things too. Like, what's the rating of this podcast?
We call it. I call it family carpool friendly.
Okay, so I'll say the joke in a different way. But like one of the things that I'll present myself, I'm like, I'm religious enough that I believe in God and secular enough that I hope he's not watching me sin. Like that kind of, element where, again, there's a dichotomy of being a human being and being a normal person as well as being a religious person. So that means that it's not that I don't have the, struggles, it's that I, have more guilt or have less guilt or whatever it is. I joke about, let's say, like, when it comes to, like, eating bacon, I don't not eat bacon because of the Jewish thing. I don't eat bacon because I have IBS and I couldn't handle all that oil. Like, God knew his people. Don't mix milk and meat. We shouldn't be eating milk. Like, of course, like, that kind of, so part of it is just breaking down stereotypes and trying to, like, really just, like, understand, like, what a Jew is and what we go through. And then I think it's really breaking down, anti-Semitism and how dumb it is. So I'll talk about different, kind of things that we go through as Jews and we go through as Jewish creators and kind of try to put perspective on that, where, like, I get DMs of pictures of Hitler. Like, that's a real thing. And I turned it into a joke where I'm like, I get DMs of pictures of Hitler. So many pictures of Hitler. So many different pictures of Hitler. When did this guy have time to pose for all of these photos? Killing the Jews and killing it on GQ. So I kind of, like, again, put it in a funny lens, but it's like, why am I getting DMs of pictures of Hitler? I talk about, terrible comments that I get, which, comments like, Hitler was right, you stupid Jew, go back to your country. We're trying. Like those kind of, like where it's funny,
right,
but it's also real, and we could talk about it, talking about people yelling Free Palestine, talking about people, yelling anti-Semitic things. I had a weird experience where, and this is real, somebody came over to, me and my friend, this is right when Kanye was anti-Semitic for the first time, somebody comes over to me and my friend and says, it's another Holocaust coming for you Jews. I got to be on Dr. Phil and talk about it. And in the comments on the YouTube video, people are calling me a liar and saying it's a made-up story. And then I get to joke about, you think that's the best fake made-up story I could come up with? I'm a creative person. Here, let me come up with a more creative anti-Semitic story. And then I just talk about, like, a ridiculous, crazy, over-the-top story, but at the same time it's rooted in somebody walking over to me and my friend saying there's another Holocaust coming for you Jews. So trying to, like, break these stereotypes and break these perceptions of Jews by leaning in and joking about it, because I feel like through humor we can actually have conversation and we can actually have dialogue. Because if I want to talk to you about something, you get protective, I get protective, and like we're kind of having this argument and fighting. If I do it in a joking, silly way, a lot of times you can hear it more because it's like self-deprecating. I'm aware of how ridiculous some of it is. And then also, if I put it in perspective,
there's
how
definitely things
insane
you
and
can
ridiculous
say as a comic that you can't say.
Yeah. It's,
No,
I'm saying,
exactly
but also
that.
people take
These
it too
things,
far where it's like, I'm a comedian, I can say whatever I want. No. But as a comic, you definitely can open more conversations and dialogue, for sure.
yeah, well, exactly that. That yeah, as a comic, you can say things that in a speech you can't say, in other ways you can't say. But at the same time, you joked about it earlier, but do you feel a responsibility that to a certain degree you represent Judaism? That for many people, you're the only Orthodox guy that they know, do you feel this a weight of certain things that you have to say, or certain things that you can't say, or that you represent Judaism itself?
Um, no, I don't fully feel that weight, and maybe I should more. I feel like, again, I talk about what's authentic to me, what's real to me, the struggles that I go to, and like, some people like it and some people don't. Like, to me, I had somebody that they were like, referred to me as like the rabbi comedian who makes pee jokes. And it's like, yeah, I'm traumatized. I was circumcised and I had my son circumcised, and I'm proud of that. And if, I have another son, we'll circumcise him too. But that doesn't mean it's not a traumatizing thing. That doesn't mean it's not a scary thing. That doesn't mean it's not a real thing. And I think that, to me, all the jokes that I say, like, I stand behind. But I think, like, it was kind of funny, just for perspective of, like, how people react to things. I was in a show and I made a circumcision joke. And a lady was like, "That's inappropriate." And I was like, "Really?" Because I was by a bris in this show with you last week. If we can cut peepees here, we can joke about it
You
here.
can talk about
This is
it.
the most safe space to do it. To me, that's not an inappropriate joke. That's like, like, these shouldn't be. I think that, part of what I try to do also is like, break stigma about conversations, even amongst Orthodox Jews. And again, some people don't like it, but some people do. But I also, to me, what's interesting is people, even other Jews, they don't really know what Orthodox Jews are like, and they don't really interact with Orthodox Jews. And I think, honestly, like, a little is a lot. Where, like, me, I was super tired once, and I ran to the Laugh Factory late, and I was wearing red sweatpants because, like, I had my sweatpants, and I was literally, like, running from a thing and a thing, blah. And I came in red sweatpants, and I had, like, 3 people after the show that were from Vienna, and they were like, "We didn't know Orthodox Jews could wear sweatpants. Like, this is amazing. Like, we would never, like, whoa, our mind is blown. Like, you seem so normal, but, like, where do you go to shul? We'd love to go to shul." But, and they ended up coming for Friday night, Shabbos at my house. But to them, it was like, "Oh, wow, we didn't know that, like, you guys, we didn't know we could talk to you guys, let alone you could be on stage and you could be making jokes and you could be wearing sweatpants and looking normal, acting normal." And I think that, like, the biggest thing that we have to do as Orthodox Jews is just showcase that we're normal people. And that's one of the things that I try to do.
Yeah, being authentic, and not being the spokesperson for Judaism, I think makes you the spokesperson for Judaism. That you are casual, that you are, take me as I am, and that, oh, look, from Jews, Orthodox Jews can be normal, can wear red sweatpants. I'm still waiting for you to do some Chabad rabbi crowd work, though. I think you should grab someone from the audience and put tefillin on them on stage, like, for real. Like, actually do the whole kit and caboodle, the whole. I mean, you can't do
My
it at
show's at
nighttime,
10
but
p.m. at night. Yeah, I know.
come on,
I
there's got
can
to be a way around
circumcise
this.
someone.
Now you're onto something. Okay, let's do this.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, well, it's actually funny that you say that. I, at least as of now, didn't get the role. We'll see, but probably didn't get it. I did. There's a movie that's coming out in theaters that has a role for, like, a proper Chabadnik stopping people and asking them to blow shofar. And when I found out about that and I didn't have the audition, I was like, "What?" And I emailed everyone. They were like, "Oh my gosh, we'd love to have you audition," and I auditioned for the role. And I haven't heard back, which usually means that I didn't get it. But yeah, I was like, I literally, here's how I got the audition. I emailed them. I'm like, "For me, this isn't a role. This is a documentary. I've done
Right.
this." And
Right.
they're like, "Oh wow,
I
here,
am this.
yes, take the audition." And exactly,
Right.
I'm like, if you want it to be authentic, I'm your guy. If you don't,
Right.
you can hire Joe Schmo. But, like, yeah,
So your Chabad rabbi training definitely has helped in this.
100%. I'm saying definitely. I think Chabad rabbi training really helps in every way because, first off, I'm not embarrassed to walk over to strangers and talk to them. Also, no, I can hear a no and be like, "But what about this script? No, what about this script? What about this script? What about this one again?" Um, and again, it's worked most of the time, so that's good. Being a little
Yeah.
obnoxious, a little chutzpah goes a long way.
A little chutzpah goes a long way. Post October 7th, has your roles changed? All three of them have people responded differently to you Have things gotten heavier? Um, have the Jews in power been more sympathetic to you or less sympathetic to you? How have things changed since October 7th?
So for me, what was kind of funny is from a Hollywood career, everything's been very wonky because there was COVID that kind of shut everything down. Then there was a writer and actor strike that shut everything down. So COVID kind of messed things up for almost a year. Then the writer strike messed up everything for a year. And then October 7th happens, and it definitely, made everyone look at me and other people differently. Um, Overall, it's been fine. Overall, it's been good. The Laugh Factory's been, amazing to me. Shout out everyone there, Jamie Masada, the owner, and David Fura, the president, and Rihanna, or Rivka, her Hebrew name, who's the manager that runs the place. They've all been,
So
super, super
it's a
amazing.
Chabad house in disguise. Is that what it is? Just run by a bunch of
Basically.
Jews?
Yeah, I'm saying this is on the door, like proper, everything. Um,
Wow.
what's funny is David Fura, his son, just got married in Crown Heights, full Chabadnik. He's
Wow.
the president, so that's kind of funny. But no, so everyone at the Laugh Factory itself has been, super amazing and awesome to me. There have definitely been other comedy shows where people have mentioned, hey, we'll have you on the show, but we're not going to put your face on the poster because they didn't want it to seem like overtly Jewish, which I it's one of those things that I don't love, but at the same time, like, I want to be on the show. So, like, okay, sure. Um, and there's definitely been, like, at first there was a little bit of, like, figuring out ways to navigate it, but that's also, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, just like giving a live, authentic performance where, like, a bunch of times I would, just to kind of, again, get the crowd into it, I would start off by saying, my name is Menachem and I proudly stand with Israel. It's not political, they're just the only people that can pronounce my name. And then go into that where it's like they
Right.
can tell that I'm aware of what they think of me, but I'm down to make jokes. Let's go. And like I definitely kind of came up with things like that where I realized, if I can, break the stigma off the bat, it just makes people more comfortable to joke. Now things have kind of, definitely normalized in, that regard. Haven't, thank God, Baruch Hashem, haven't had anyone, shout anything too crazy or attack me on stage or, call out anything.
Right.
But there's
Right.
definitely, you could definitely tell, what people think. Like at the beginning when I would say, my name is Menachem and I proudly stand with Israel, I get like the entire audience to applaud. Then I'd say the joke and then people would laugh. Then it went from the whole audience to three quarters to a quarter to none to like 1 week, which was funny, like towards the end of me doing that. Because there's also, again, you have jokes in phases where, like, when Kanye was super anti Semitic, there were jokes about that. When Kanye released the song N words, Hail Hitler, there were those jokes. And, like, all these things, they, come and go and sometimes come back. But, like, on one of the last occasions where I, said, my name is Menachem and I proudly stand with Israel, one person applauded, and it was like this famous model who was like non-Jewish and was applauding, and I was like, okay, that's cool. That it's like at least we have, a non-Jew. Um,
Do you stop
but
saying
overall,
that?
so I stopped saying that joke because I didn't feel like it was necessary as much. I was just,
Right.
kind of. I realized if I go into like, jokes about my name or jokes about, other things, I can get the same thing. Because again, the goal as a comedian is you have your first joke to make people laugh and feel comfortable with you. And if they don't laugh or they don't feel comfortable with you, you're never upset. So it's really about kind of like, with comedy, the most important things are starting strong and ending strong. If you start strong, they're involved, and if you end strong, they remember you. The middle is important, but not as important.
Do you ever run out of material? You run out of jokes? I mean, I mean, there's that famous Seinfeld thing of sitting down every single day and writing jokes. You know, do you run out of material?
I write jokes in bursts. So what'll end up happening usually is I will like come up with an idea, and then based on the idea, I'll then write like 10 minutes of material, and then I'll have brand new 10. Occasionally, I'll think of isolated jokes, especially like when it comes to timely jokes. I'll think of isolated jokes, like going back to the Kanye thing. When he was being anti-Semitic, he once posted a photo of Jonah Hill in the movie 21 Jump Street and was like, "I like Jews now." I like Jews again. So to me, what was funny was in a movie called Django Unchained, the same Jewish actor plays a KKK member. So I on the spot was like, you know, it's a good thing Kanye didn't watch Django Unchained, or he'd still hate the Jews. Like, there's always little jokes like that that are like in the moment,
Right.
but to
Right.
me, usually my writing style is usually in bursts. But then occasionally there will be like a one-off.
So it sounds like you've made it. It sounds like do you have any more aspirations? I mean, do you have like goals as a comedian, what you want to be able, that you want to get to a
Yeah, I'd
certain
say
point at a certain time?
Baruch Hashem's going really well. The two things that I want to do, which so I feel like I've really been able to establish myself at the Laugh Factory, Baruch Hashem. I got into the next step for me that was very important, which is producing my own shows. So I went from just like being on people's shows to like fully controlling the show, where I curate the comedians, I curate the experience, I put on the shows, and that's again that with Era so far we put on these shows, and those have been going really really well. Baruch Hashem. The next step that I would like to do is, twofold in the non-Jewish world. I'd love to, be more established, have my own special on, Netflix or Hulu or one of, the big streamers. I'd love to, or HBO, I'd love to, like make a late night debut, be on Kimmel or Fallon or one of those, like the first one with the Kippah. I think, those would be huge accomplishments that I'm slowly building towards, but would really, really want to do. And then honestly, in the Jewish world, like I'd love to, break into that market a little bit more, where a lot of comedians, who are religious, start off in the Jewish world and then start doing regular clubs. And I kind of did the opposite, where like I'm, a past regular at the Laugh Factory. Like that's, in the non-Jewish world, a big deal. Jews don't really fully understand or know what that means. And, I'm definitely not Modi, Elon, like any of them yet, but that's the next step as
Right.
well, is kind of branching off into both of those things. And then to me, like really
Amazing.
my ultimate goal is to get like some TV shows going into showrun, which is like run my, own TV shows. Merit Hashem.
All right. Mitzvah Hashem it is. You got your work cut out for you ahead, but you're on the right track, and you're moving. You're
I hope
hustling.
so.
That's for sure.
Merit Hashem. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Mitzvah Hashem. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Menachem, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I got two closing questions for you. Question number
Amazing.
one is, who are three creatives, Jewish creatives, that you think the audience should know about?
So, three Jewish creatives that like that people should know about and that really helped me would be Taran from Gosri. He's, Jewish comic, not religious, but Jewish. He helped me like become a real comedian. The actor Jeff Wilbush, also not religious, but he helped establish me as an actor. Like he brought me onto a show and like made me become a real actor. And Jeff Lieber, who's one of the creators of the show Lost, he jumped on for a little bit as a showrunner of one of my shows and like really made me feel like I'm a real writer, because for a long time as a yeshiva boy with no writing background, I'm like, I think these scripts are good, but having somebody of his caliber be like, I want to be a part of that project, just really kind of established me. So those, kind of are the three creatives that really like helped me feel accomplished. But then there's also, like side shout outs, like Zosha, the band, they're amazing. And like I was writing, it's kind of funny, I was writing this horror movie where the monster is a shade, a shindalad, like a Jewish monster, and I couldn't really figure out the tone. And then I listened to one of their songs and I'm like, I got the tone for the movie, and I wrote the entire script based on like the tone of their song. Or like Zusha Golden, the photographer, he's amazing. And then also like, someone like you're an incredible artist, and like I assume if people are listening to this podcast, they know you, but you're definitely on that list of creatives that people should know, because like, again, you're not only super amazing and awesome, fun and talented, but you do something that I can't, which I'm very, like good envious of, because I can write a script. I can, I used to be in a band. I can write a script. I can write a song. I can do stand up. I can't draw. I can't paint. That's not who I am. So seeing your kind of art that is something that I love but know that I can't do is just, kind of a huge thing. And I think that that's also something important about being creative, is like knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, which allows you to appreciate people who can do things that you can't.
Well, I can't do stand-up comedy, so I think we're even.
Not yet. We can try. Never know.
Never know. And my last question for you is, what's your advice for young creatives for them to find their orange socks?
Run. Become a doctor. Make your parents proud. Um, no, I would say to me, um, two pieces of advice. First thing, in my opinion, is know your goal, but be willing to pivot. You want to be a writer, be a writer. But if that leads to stand-up comedy, if that leads to directing, if that leads to painting, if that leads to music, whatever it leads to, be open-minded, but be focused. So focus on what your end result is, but sometimes other paths get you there. And the other thing is just do things. Just go for it. Just do things. One of my friends who passed away recently-ish, one thing that he said, like this was when I was making music, he was way more talented of a musician than I am, 100 times more talented. And I showed him a song that I recorded, and he listened to it. He's like, this is incredible, but not only is it incredible, I can play music. You did it. You went and you recorded a song. You actually did something. And that's like words that I live by, where anyone could think of things. Anyone could dream. Anyone could, oh, I could be funnier than you if I was a comedian. Then be a comedian. Don't talk about it. Be it.
Right.
If you want to be a comic, do it today. Just do it. And again, things will fall into place. You'll find out what you're better at, what you're worse at, what's easier for you, what's harder for you. But the first thing of advice is, like, whatever you want to do, just do it. Figure it out later. Make it look pretty later.
Amazing, amazing. Menachem, thank you. And we'll have
Thank
to
you so
come
much
back
for having
again
me.
to hear more about the writing and the directing and all the other stuff.
Really looking forward
Part
to it.
2. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.